Okay, welcome back, everyone. Today we're looking at a really fascinating submission from one of our listeners. It covers two interconnected, kind of unsettling experiences from when they were a child.
That's right. And these aren't just spooky stories. They really touch on personal encounters that challenge perception. And they link directly to local beliefs about the unseen.
Exactly. It's a deep dive into these real-life accounts shared from Ratchaburi in Thailand. Things that make you really think about what might be just outside our normal senses.
Mm-hmm. And the source material is this personal account from someone we'll call based on the story. They were about 11 years old at the time. We're going to sort of unpack the details provided, try to understand what happened from their perspective.
So the journey we're taking you on today follows this one single, pretty strange evening for We'll start things off at school after hours. There's a game of hide and seek.
Seems innocent enough.
Yeah, but it takes a really weird turn. Then, later that same night, we follow walking home. And what happens next? The consequences. Well, they're quite unexpected and pretty severe.
The details in the source are quite vivid, actually. They give us a good picture of not just what experienced, but also how people around them understood it, within that local context.
Okay, so let's jump right into that first event. The hide-and-seek game at school. Picture it. School's out in Ratchaburi. It's getting quiet, kind of atmospheric.
Yeah.
There's this group, maybe 10 music students, and they're waiting around for their teacher.
And the teacher is a monk. That's an interesting detail itself.
It is. And key here, as you mentioned, the monk was late.
Right, which created this gap, this downtime. The kids had maybe an hour or so to fill.
Exactly. So what do kids do? A group of 7 of them decide, let's play hide and seek. The account even names them. Y2, Fa, Non, Arm, Te, A, and our narrator, And
here's a slightly modern twist. They apparently had toy walkie-talkies, which they planned to use, presumably to communicate while hiding or searching across the school grounds. Adds an interesting layer.
It does. So the game kicks off. Arm is the first seeker. And another friend, A, they hide together in the new school building.
But they don't last long. Arm finds them pretty quickly.
Right. And this, according to the source, is where the first kind of odd thing happens. After being found, tries using their walkie-talkie, to tell the others still hiding, hey, we're out.
Makes sense.
But instead of hearing their friends, just static. Nothing. Which was weird, right? They expected someone to reply.
Definitely unexpected. Just silence on the line when there shouldn't have been.
So, okay, Arm keeps searching, finds Y2 near some construction site, then finds Te near the Thai music room.
Okay, so that's 4 found now out of the 7 playing.
Leaving just 2 still hidden, Fa and Non.
And the assumption was they were probably hiding somewhere in the old playground area, which was behind that Thai music room.
Yeah.
A classic hiding spot, you'd think.
All right, totally. But now, time's becoming an issue. The monk teacher is expected, any minute.
Right, the clock's ticking.
So the 5 of them, Arm and the 4 he found, decide, okay, game over, we need to stop. They try to announce this over the walkie-talkie again.
And let me guess.
More static. Just static. And crucially, Fa and Non, they don't come out.
The source really emphasizes this point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That the walkie-talkie specifically failed when trying to reach Fa and Non. Not just general interference, but targeted communication breakdown.
Exactly. So now the 5 of them are getting a bit worried. They team up and start actively searching for Fa and Non. They cover the whole school, apparently, but really focus on that old playground.
Checking the equipment, the merry-go-round, the Viking ship thing, the slide. There was a tunnel, too.
Yeah, all the likely places. But the account is clear. They looked thoroughly. Look inside things, around things, nothing.
And Fa and Non are just gone, vanished. Plus, it's getting close to 5 p.m. now, so the anxiety level is definitely rising among the kids.
And then, right on cue, the monk teacher arrives.
While Fa and Non are still missing.
Still missing. And the kids, they're hesitant, right? They don't really want to tell him they were playing hide and seek so late, probably afraid of getting told off.
Understandable. But the source says the monk, he picked up on their unease straight away. He could tell they were agitated.
Yeah, he kept asking, what's wrong? Where are the others? Pressing them. Which eventually led them to confess about the game and how they just couldn't find Fa and Non.
Okay, and this is the real turning point in the story, isn't it?
This is where it gets really interesting, because the monk's reaction isn't just, oh, you shouldn't play so late. His first response, according to account, is to ask them directly, isn't it a ghost blinding your eyes?
Oh, okay. So he immediately introduces this supernatural explanation.
Immediately. And from a figure of authority, a monk. That's powerful.
And he doesn't just say it, he acts on it. He goes straight to the Thai music room.
Lights incense. Starts chanting.
And then there's that detail about the smoke.
Yeah, the smoke from the incense, it doesn't just sort of drift vaguely. It seems to be pulled almost very strongly in one direction.
Towards the playground.
Towards the playground. So the monk sees this and immediately tells them, "Found them. Go get your friends from the playground quickly."
So he's interpreting the smoke as a sign, pointing the way.
Seems like it. So the kids, probably a bit stunned but following his lead, rush back to the playground.
And there they are.
There they are, Fa and Non, just sitting there, plain as day, on the merry-go-round. Totally visible.
Which must have been incredibly confusing for the searchers. How did they miss them? They just searched there.
Exactly, total confusion. But then we get the other side of the story. From Fa and Non.
And their experience was just as strange.
Just as strange, yeah. They said they first hid inside that long tunnel on the playground. They could actually hear the others searching, calling their names.
Okay, so they weren't oblivious.
Not at all. And Fa apparently tried using her walkie-talkie several times to say, "Hey, we want to stop playing." But all they heard back were updates from earlier. You know, A is found, Tay is found. They never heard the call to stop the game, never got a direct response to their own calls.
So they thought the others were ignoring them. Or maybe refusing to stop playing.
That's what they assumed, yeah. Like the others were being difficult. And here's the kicker.
Go on.
Faye and Non also said that while they were in the tunnel, hearing the searchers nearby, calling their names, they couldn't see them.
So the blinding went both ways.
Exactly. They thought maybe the others were playing a trick, trying to lure them out, so they just stayed hidden in the tunnel, thinking it was safer.
Until eventually they just gave up.
Right. They got tired of waiting or figured the trick wasn't working, so they decided to stop hiding on their own. They walked out of the tunnel and went and sat on the merry-go-round, just waiting to be found.
And that must have been only moments before the other kids, guided by the monk's incense smoke, finally saw them there.
Precisely. So the big takeaway from this first event, as tells it, is how it seemed to confirm that local belief the monk mentioned, ghost blinding.
Phi Bong Ta is the likely Thai term.
Phi Bong Ta. Both groups, the searchers and the hiders, had this bizarre shared experience of perceptual blindness. Couldn't see each other despite being close, couldn't communicate properly via the walkie-talkies only between the hidden and searching groups.
It really felt like something unseen was actively interfering, just like the monk suggested. It wasn't just kids being bad at searching.
Definitely not. And the story ends with the monk scolding them, specifically for playing hide-and-seek in the evening.
Implying that time of day is significant, maybe more dangerous for this sort of thing.
Right. He sends them all home early, seems genuinely concerned. Recalls feeling scared, obviously, but also kind of excited. 11 years old, having this crazy story to tell.
A very memorable, if unsettling, end to the school day.
But hold on, because the evening wasn't over for not by a long shot.
Yes. The second event happens later that same night.
That's right. Gets dropped off by a friend's mom, but only at the entrance to their street because it's too narrow for the car to go down.
So the setting shifts now. It's dark, alone, walking down this narrow street. The source mentions few, dim streetlights. Creates that isolated, slightly eerie atmosphere.
Yeah. And starts walking home. Initially, the account says, not really afraid. It's the usual route, familiar.
But there's a specific spot mentioned.
Yes. Near house, there's this overgrown area with some really big old tamarind trees, described as needing like 2 or 3 people to link arms to get around them, so substantial trees.
Very old, probably, and significant landmarks.
And as walks past the spot near these trees, they encounter something specific, a smell.
A bad smell. Foul, like a dead rat, is how described it.
Exactly. Unpleasant, noticeable, and kind of out of place.
And reaction is key here.
It really is. Being a kid, maybe not thinking. Just reacts out loud, says something like, ooh, what's that terrible smell? Just speaks the thought.
This verbal acknowledgement, it seems minor, but in the context of the story, it's crucial.
Because the immediate consequence is startling. As soon as speaks, there's a loud thud from the direction of the trees.
A distinct sound.
Very distinct. And right after the thud, catches a glimpse, just a fleeting sight of something tall moving incredibly fast through the tall grass near the trees.
Wow. Okay, so smell, sound, and then a visual, however brief.
Yeah. Is understandably shocked, terrified. Questions if they really saw it. Maybe it was just nerves after the school incident.
But the feeling is real. Intense chills, that sort of primal fear reaction.
Totally. It prompts to just run the rest of the way home as fast as possible.
And the source notes that once got inside, safe with family, that immediate sharp fear started to fade a bit.
Right. Went through the evening routine, probably still thinking about the hide-and-seek story to tell friends tomorrow, maybe trying to push the walk-home incident away.
But the night had other plans.
It really did, because later that night, in bed, experiences something awful. It sounds very much like severe sleep paralysis.
The description is classic. Tightness in the chest, can't breathe properly, completely unable to move.
Racing heart, overwhelming fear, just trapped in their own body.
But there was something else too, wasn't there? Something auditory.
Yes, adding another layer of terror. While struggling, hears strange whispers right near their ear.
Whispers?
Yeah, described as sounding like mumbled chanting in a language didn't recognize. But definitely there, definitely close.
That's incredibly disturbing. Trapped, can't move, and hearing that.
Horrifying. Struggles against it, but eventually the account says just loses consciousness.
Passes out from the ordeal.
Wakes up later, around 4 a.m., but not feeling better. Feeling really sick, high fever.
And this wasn't just a 24-hour bug. This illness lingered.
For 3 days, the source says. 3 days of being severely ill. And regular medicine wasn't working. They saw a doctor, got injections.
Might feel slightly better for a bit, maybe.
Yeah, but the fever, the weakness, it just kept coming back. Conventional medicine just wasn't cutting it.
So, options running out, the family turns to traditional methods.
Exactly. Grandmother suggests taking him to see a shaman, referred to as grandfather shaman, or Khan in the source, for a ritual healing.
And they go to a relative who acts as a medium for the shaman.
Right. And the encounter is dramatic right from the start. Before even gets out of the car, the shaman from inside his sanctuary calls out really loudly, really sternly.
But not at right?
No, seemingly addressing something unseen with shouting, "Who are you? What are you doing to my grandchild?"
Okay, so the shaman immediately perceives an external, likely malevolent influence, frames the illness as supernatural right away.
Instantly. Hearing this, is terrified of the shaman now. Just wants to hide. Grandmother tries to soothe explain to the shaman.
And the shaman says something like, only his grandchildren, meaning people under his spiritual protection, can enter.
Yes, which just solidifies the grandmother's suspicion. This illness isn't normal. Something followed
Understandably, is very reluctant to go inside the shaman's sanctuary after that.
Deeply reluctant. Describes feeling intense fear, but also this strange internal anger and just this overwhelming urge to run away. His parents actually have to physically hold him back.
Wow. A real internal battle happening.
Seems like it. Then, during the ritual, something very weird happens. The shaman offers some betel nut.
Which is common in some traditional rituals in Southeast Asia.
Right. And notes that at this moment, that intense fear and anger they were feeling lessens slightly, but then their hand and arm just move on their own.
Without consciously doing it.
Exactly. Takes the betel nut, puts it in their mouth, starts chewing it. Had never chewed betel nut before, didn't want to, but their body just did it.
That's very strange, like something else was controlling the physical action.
That's how it's presented. Then the shaman uses these 2 small ivory tusks for casting, like divination tools. First cast, both tusks land face down. And mouth, again acting on its own, says clearly, not yet.
Not yet. Spoken by but not from
That's the implication. Second cast, 1 tusk lands face up, 1 face down, and mouth says, here, now.
Here, now. Okay, so this is interpreted as the entity, whatever it is, communicating through responding to the ritual casting.
Seems to be exactly the interpretation. Following this, the shaman places a ceremonial cloth or covering over head. And at that instant, completely loses consciousness again. Blackout.
Just gone.
Next thing knows, they're waking up in the car on the way home.
And how are they feeling?
Significantly better. The first thing they notice is the headache, the fever dramatically reduced. Almost gone.
Wow. So whatever happened during that unconscious period, it worked.
It appears so, but confused, right? There's this blank spot. They ask their grandmother, what happened back there when I was out?
She was hesitant to tell him.
Yeah, reluctant at first. But keeps asking, pressing her for details. So eventually, she tells him what she witnessed.
Oh, that was that.
She said, after the covering was put on his head, body started shaking violently, like full-on possessed shaking. The shaman used holy water, was shouting commands at the spirit, telling it to leave, ordering it out. There was apparently a real struggle. The shaman kept chanting,
Sounds intense.
Very. Until finally the shaking stopped and Oom's body just collapsed, went limp. The shaman's assistants then helped him.
So a spiritual battle, essentially. An exorcism of sorts.
That's certainly how the grandmother described it, and she relayed the shaman's final diagnosis or explanation for everything.
Which was?
That Oom had unintentionally greeted something on the walk home, and because of that acknowledgement, a spirit had attached itself and followed him.
Which clicks right back to Oom speaking out loud about the smell near those old tamarind trees.
Exactly. Oom makes that connection, and the grandmother adds context. That specific area used to be a military camp, a place with a history of death.
Ah, okay, so the location itself is considered potentially spiritually active or heavy.
Right. And she suggests maybe Oom's luck was just low that day, making him more susceptible when he spoke out loud and inadvertently greeted whatever presence was lingering there.
Bad timing, bad location. And a seemingly innocent comment.
A dangerous combination, according to this belief system. And this whole terrifying ordeal led to a very important lesson from his grandmother.
Which was?
A direct warning. When you're walking alone, especially at night, in the dark, if you hear strange sounds or strange smells, don't say anything. Don't acknowledge it out loud.
Just keep walking. Ignore it.
Precisely. It's presented as a specific cultural rule for safety, rooted in this idea that acknowledging the unseen can invite interaction, potentially negative interaction. Don't open the door, so to speak.
A very practical piece of advice, born from a very frightening experience.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a bit. We've got these two really distinct but connected events from the same evening. The hide and seek, the walk home, the illness, the ritual. What really stands out to you from this whole account?
Well, what's truly fascinating is how clearly this personal narrative illuminates specific local beliefs and the warnings tied to them. You know, it's not just presented as weird stuff happened.
Right.
The first story gives a concrete example of this ghost blinding or Fibang Ta concept, affecting multiple people's perceptions simultaneously. And the second story directly links an action speaking out loud to attracting an unseen entity, connecting it to place, history, and even personal vulnerability, like low luck.
It offers explanations for things that might otherwise seem completely random or inexplicable. Why couldn't the kids see each other? Why did Oom suddenly get so sick after that walk? The beliefs provide a framework.
Exactly. And it takes it beyond just being scary stories, you know? Helps you understand the reasons behind certain traditional warnings. Why maybe you shouldn't play hide and seek late in certain places, or why elders might tell you to ignore strange things in the dark.
These aren't just arbitrary rules. They're like safety protocols based on a worldview where the spirit world is considered a tangible reality that can interact with ours.
And it raises that broader question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do these cultural narratives shape how we perceive and react to experiences that fall outside the norm, especially when our senses seem to conflict or when conventional explanations don't quite fit?
Yeah.
These personal accounts, while specific to Oom and Ratchaburi, reflect that wider cultural understanding. The idea that boundaries exist, time, place, behavior, and crossing them, even unintentionally, can lead to encounters with the unseen.
Right. So that really wraps up our deep dive into these quite unsettling personal accounts. It definitely gives you something to think about the next time you find yourself somewhere quiet and dark.
Indeed. Maybe think twice before commenting on that strange smell. But seriously, these experiences, as recounted, really offer a lens into how such events get interpreted within a specific cultural context. They provide not just traditional explanations, but also traditional remedies, like the shamanic ritual.
It shows how belief systems provide a complete framework for understanding and dealing with the unknown. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll be back soon with more explorations, digging into the fascinating sources you share with us.